So I took one of his notebooks from the lab.
Yeah.
Listen. It could have imitated 1,000,000 life forms on 1,000,000 planets, could change into any one of them at any time.
John Carpenter's The Thing is remembered as a masterpiece of paranoia, isolation, and practical horror. But beneath the violent transformations and frozen landscapes lies a tapestry of secrets most viewers never discover. This story of shape-shifting terror was built on extreme production challenges, hidden experiments, discarded endings, and controversial studio decisions that were quietly buried as the film struggled during release. Over the years, fans have uncovered bits and fragments, yet many of the most astonishing truths remain hidden beneath the snow of Outpost 31. In this documentary-style deep dive, we explore the overlooked details, forgotten scenes, and unsettling production mysteries that reveal an entirely different side of Carpenter's classic. These are the hidden facts fans rarely notice. The lost 20 minutes of footage Universal ordered destroyed. Few fans realize that The Thing once contained more than 20 minutes of footage that no longer exists in any archive. After early test screenings went poorly, the studio panicked and demanded tighter pacing. Several extended transformation scenes, character beats, and an alternate ending were removed. Reports from people close to the production say Universal wanted the film to appear more commercial, which led to the destruction of certain reels rather than long-term storage. At the time, executives believed preserving cut horror footage served no purpose for future marketing. Carpenter later confirmed that some sequences involving Bennings and Fuchs were removed and never recovered. Their disappearance created gaps in character development and left moments feeling abrupt. Many believe the mysterious missing footage would have offered clearer hints about early infections, especially in scenes involving the Norwegian camp. While storyboards and still photographs remain, the complete deleted scenes are permanently gone. The lost material continues to fuel speculation among fans who study surviving frames for clues. What remains is a film shaped not only by vision, but by irreversible studio intervention. The studio tried to replace the practical effects with hand-drawn animation. During production, Universal grew nervous about Rob Bottin's ambitious animatronics. His effects were groundbreaking, but caused delays and constant technical challenges. Some studio executives doubted the creatures would work on camera and suggested using traditional animation techniques as a backup plan. This would have meant rotoscoped transformations similar to older fantasy films. Bottin felt the idea undermined the gritty realism he wanted and convinced Carpenter to push back. Carpenter supported his effects team fully and refused the proposed stylistic shift. The studio did brief internal tests, but none blended convincingly with the live-action scenes. Had the plan moved forward, The Thing might have resembled a stylized fantasy film rather than a raw and violent horror experience. Bottin worked 7 days a week, often sleeping in the studio, just to prove the practical approach would succeed. The final results validated his efforts and became legendary examples of physical creature design. The abandoned animation proposal remains an obscure piece of production history that most viewers never hear about. Kurt Russell almost quit after a dangerous on-set explosion. Behind the intense atmosphere of The Thing was a production that constantly balanced real hazards. One of the closest calls occurred during a practical explosion sequence filmed inside a narrow hallway. As charges detonated, a blast shot much closer to Kurt Russell than planned. Crew members recall him diving out of the way as debris scattered across the set. The pyrotechnics team realized the charge placement had been miscalculated by inches. Russell was shaken and reportedly told Carpenter that he would walk off the film if safety could not be guaranteed. Carpenter immediately halted filming to reassess all explosive setups and added additional shields for the actors. Russell insisted on performing many of his scenes himself, which increased the importance of strict safety protocols. The near accident never reached the public during release, but became an internal warning within the crew. Despite the scare, Russell continued filming and delivered one of his most iconic performances. The tension between actor safety and practical effects was a constant balancing act that shaped the realism fans admire today. The dog actor was two good crew members thought something was wrong with him. Jed, the wolf dog who played the infected husky, is often praised by fans for his eerie stillness, but the true story is even stranger. During filming, several crew members believed the animal was behaving unnaturally. He moved silently across rooms, paused with perfect timing, and never reacted to cameras or equipment. His ability to hold a fixed gaze without blinking made some crew joke that the dog was actually the thing. Animal trainers revealed that Jed had an exceptionally calm temperament and an unusual level of discipline. He never barked, panicked, or became distracted on set. Carpenter deliberately built entire scenes around Jed's quiet movements because they created natural suspense. One of the most unsettling shots, where the dog walks slowly down a corridor, was achieved without any commands. The crew said they had never worked with an animal whose performance felt so deliberately controlled. Jed's strange presence contributed significantly to the film's early tension and helped establish the creature's mysterious intelligence. His performance remains one of the most underrated elements of the movie. The original Carpenter ending confirmed who was the thing but was scrapped. Most viewers know the film ends in ambiguity, but few are aware that Carpenter originally storyboarded an ending that removed the mystery entirely. Early concept images show a final sequence where MacReady is rescued and later undergoes a definitive blood test that proves he is human. Another version showed Childs completing the test instead. Universal pushed for a clearer resolution, believing audiences preferred concrete answers. Carpenter later decided the film worked better when it left viewers uncertain about who survived and what they might be. The definitive ending was abandoned before filming, leaving only a few storyboards and production notes as evidence. The final ambiguous scene between MacReady and Childs became one of the most debated moments in horror history. Fans continue analyzing eye reflections, breath vapor, and subtle gestures for answers. The scrapped ending serves as a reminder that Carpenter valued thematic power over studio demands. His decision preserved the film's legacy as one of cinema's great mysteries. The blood test scene was improvised out of panic from the crew. The blood test sequence is considered one of the most suspenseful scenes in horror history, but its execution was born out of production frustration. Early versions of the scene lacked tension because Carpenter had originally written it as a straightforward scientific process. When first filmed, the moment felt clinical and predictable. Crew members expressed concern that the sequence lacked shock value. Carpenter reworked it on the spot, introducing sudden misdirection and unpredictable pacing. He rearranged character order, removed early dialogue, and encouraged the actors to react with genuine fear. The new structure gave Rob Bottin time to refine the explosive practical effect for the moment the blood jumps away. The crew was reportedly nervous because the effect was difficult to synchronize and had failed several times during testing. Their anxiety fed naturally into the actors' performances. The final version is tightly edited, slow building, and punctuated by a brutal outburst of violence. Many fans believe its strength comes from the fact that much of the tension was created under pressure. What began as a simple diagnostic scene became a masterclass in suspense because the production team refused to settle for flat energy. Multiple cast members secretly thought they were playing the thing without being told. Carpenter fueled real paranoia on set by refusing to tell certain actors whether their characters were infected at specific points in the story. He believed ambiguity would create natural tension and prevent predictable performances. Several cast members later admitted they sometimes convinced themselves they were playing the thing. Keith David, Richard Mazur, and Thomas Waits all reported moments where they assumed their characters had been assimilated. Carpenter gave minimal guidance, often responding to their questions with only a suggestion to play their scenes with subtle suspicion. This method blurred the line between actor and character. Performers studied each other for signs the same way their roles did in the script. The uncertainty also made emotional reactions more authentic during group confrontations. The cast did not always know which character the creature would attack next until shortly before shooting. This unpredictability created what the crew called a controlled psychological experiment. The result was an ensemble filled with nervous energy that matched the film's tone perfectly. Even decades later, fans still debate which characters show hints of assimilation, partly because the actors themselves doubted their identities while filming. The film uses real animal organs during the autopsy scenes. One of the reasons the creature effects in The Thing feel disturbingly real is that Rob Bottin used actual animal organs in several autopsy shots. Bottin sourced organs from local slaughterhouses because synthetic materials could not replicate the look and movement he wanted. The The steaming guts, glistening tissue, and visceral textures seen on screen are all authentic. Crew members describe the set as having an intense smell, especially under hot lights. Carpenter admitted the realism made even seasoned technical staff uncomfortable. Richard Dysart, who played Dr. Copper, had to work closely with the real material and relied on medical consultants to maintain accurate hand movements during the autopsy. Botten used this authenticity to anchor the film's more fantastical creature designs. The contrast between biological reality and alien transformation heightened the horror significantly. Modern interviews confirm that safety regulations were followed carefully, but the experience was still deeply unsettling for many involved. The choice to integrate real biology contributed to the film's lasting impact and influenced later horror filmmakers who sought similar levels of authenticity. Child's eye reflection theory was first mentioned accidentally by Carpenter. The ongoing debate about whether Childs or MacReady is infected at the end of The Thing became even more intense after a comment Carpenter made years later. During an interview, he mentioned that he used specific lighting to highlight the eyes of human characters throughout the film. Some fans interpreted this as proof that Childs is the Thing, since his eyes appear darker and less reflective in the final scene. Carpenter insisted the remark was not meant to be a definitive explanation, but the theory took on a life of its own. Fans have studied high-resolution stills, comparing light reflections on each character's face. Dean Cundy, the cinematographer, later confirmed that eye lighting was used intentionally in certain scenes, but he also noted that production conditions at the end were unpredictable due to fire and low temperatures. The ambiguity became part of the film's legacy. Carpenter's offhand comment added another layer of mystery, encouraging viewers to rewatch the final scene repeatedly in search of visual clues. The debate continues because no official answer has ever been given. The Norwegian dog scene has hidden clues that explain the entire plot. The opening sequence, where Norwegians chase a dog across the ice, contains subtle details that explain much of the story. Viewers unfamiliar with the Norwegian dialogue miss key lines. When translated, the men warn the Americans that the dog is not real and should be killed immediately. One Norwegian even yells that the animal is a creature imitating a dog. This early reveal goes unnoticed by English-speaking audiences. Visual clues also support the warning. The dog never looks back at its pursuers and moves with calculated focus. Carpenter used this behavior to suggest intelligence beyond a normal animal. Fans who analyze the scene note that the Norwegians aim to destroy the dog before it reaches other potential hosts, revealing they know exactly how dangerous the organism is. The Americans misunderstand the situation completely, which triggers the chain of infections that follow. The combination of language barriers, visual cues, and misinterpreted intentions sets the tone for the entire narrative. The scene is a brilliant example of information hidden in plain sight. The movie includes a real-world virus behavior model. Carpenter wanted The Thing to feel grounded in scientific plausibility, so he consulted real biological research while developing the creature's behavior. The assimilation process draws inspiration from virus replication models described in academic papers from the late 1970s. These studies focused on pathogens that infiltrate hosts by bonding at the cellular level. Carpenter asked his production team to imagine a life form that not only replicated cells, but also mimicked entire physiological systems. Rob Bottin used this idea as the foundation for the creature's rapid absorption and duplication abilities. The result was a horror monster defined not just by fantasy instincts, but by a terrifying interpretation of how real microscopic organisms invade living tissue. This grounding is one reason the transformations feel disturbingly plausible. Carpenter wanted audiences to experience a threat that behaved more like an intelligent infection than a traditional movie monster. The creature's ability to imitate everything down to memory and motor skills mirrors real-world parasitic and viral behavior that can alter host systems from within. Scientific advisors later stated that the hypothetical organism in the film is extreme, but not entirely impossible under speculative biology. This subtle connection to virology helped shape The Thing into a story rooted in believable science, rather than abstract horror. The crew worked through fevers and illness, because the animatronics overheated the set. Although the film is set in Antarctica, key creature workshop scenes were filmed in extremely hot conditions. Rob Bottin's animatronics relied on motors, pumps, heated gels, and thick foam latex materials that generated intense heat under powerful lighting rigs. As multiple creature builds operated simultaneously, temperatures inside the effects room frequently climbed past 100 degrees. Crew members suffered from dehydration, exhaustion, and mild fevers. Several technicians recalled stepping outside into the snow between takes just to cool down. Bottin himself pushed his body to the limit, supervising effects day and night. He eventually collapsed from stress and exhaustion near the end of production and required hospitalization. Despite the punishing conditions, the team continued their work because shutting down the effects room risked delaying the already tight shooting schedule. Carpenter praised the dedication of the effects artists, acknowledging that their near-constant presence under extreme heat was essential to achieving the film's realism. The contrast between the fictional icy environment and the real furnace-like workshop is one of the more surprising behind-the-scenes truths. The crew's determination in those grueling conditions helped produce practical transformations that remain iconic decades later. The original Bennings transformation was longer and more disturbing. The Bennings transformation scene is one of the film's creepiest moments, but the version seen today is shorter than Carpenter initially planned. Early concept art and unused footage suggest a much more elaborate sequence in which Bennings undergoes a half-formed mutation before running into the snow. Stop-motion animator Randall William Cook designed a longer transformation that showed limbs twisting, skin splitting, and tendons stretching as the creature attempted to mimic human structure. Production delays and shifting priorities forced Carpenter to scale back the scene. The director believed the shorter version created a cleaner narrative rhythm, but many crew members felt the longer cut was more disturbing. Some frames of the extended version appear in behind-the-scenes footage, revealing a near-complete stop-motion animation that was never integrated into the final cut. Bottin also had an unfinished neoprene suit designed for an intermediate mutation stage. The production ultimately chose to emphasize the chilling image of Bennings raising his distorted hands rather than the full step-by-step transformation. The abandoned material remains one of the greatest curiosities for fans who study the film's evolution. A hidden thing. POV shot exists in the final cut. Many fans are surprised to learn that Carpenter slipped a subtle point-of-view shot from the creature's perspective into the film. It appears early, during a seemingly ordinary transition scene inside the Outpost. The camera glides slowly down a hallway in a smooth and eerily intentional movement. At first glance, it resembles a standard establishing shot. However, members of the production later confirmed that Carpenter intended it to represent the creature silently observing its potential hosts. The shot has no accompanying dialogue, music cue, or character acknowledgement. This makes it easy to overlook, even during repeated viewings. The choice fits Carpenter's philosophy that the monster should feel omnipresent even in scenes without overt action. He wanted the audience to sense that the alien intelligence moves with purpose long before its full capabilities are revealed. Fans who revisit the film note that the POV shot subtly shifts how the early scenes are interpreted. It suggests that infection may have begun earlier than viewers assume, and that the creature was already scouting opportunities. This small and easily missed creative decision contributes to the lingering fear that the thing is always watching. Carpenter slipped in a shadow cameo of one infected crew member that everyone misses. One of the most overlooked visual clues occurs shortly before a key disappearance in the film. Carpenter inserted a fleeting shadow within the Outpost that does not belong to any human character present on screen. The shadow appears near a doorway while the camera focuses on tension between other crew members. Dean Cundy confirmed that the silhouette was intentionally placed to foreshadow that the thing was already on the move. The shadow does not match the posture or build of the nearby characters. It passes through the frame quietly and is never acknowledged within the scene. Carpenter believed subtle clues like this, visible only to attentive viewers, made the film more mysterious on repeat viewings. The cameo suggests that the creature was witnessing events from hidden vantage points. Some analysts believe the shadow hints at an infection timeline that differs from traditional fan theories. Its placement occurs moments before a character is later revealed to be missing, which adds a layer of narrative misdirection. This tiny detail reinforces the idea that the thing operates in the background long before its presence becomes obvious. The film's score was so minimal. and some cues were just heartbeats. Ennio Morricone approached The Thing with an unusually sparse musical philosophy. Rather than creating sweeping orchestral themes, he composed a series of low-frequency pulses, rising tones and rhythmic thumps that resembled human heartbeats. Morricone understood that the film's tension relied on emotional restraint. Instead of overwhelming scenes with melody, he used sound to unsettle the audience at a subconscious level. Several cues consist of little more than a slow, repetitive throb, mixed so quietly that some viewers hardly notice it during a first watch. Carpenter later admitted that he asked for music that felt clinical and cold, almost as if the score itself were watching the characters. Morricone delivered a minimalistic sonic palette that emphasized dread and isolation. Interestingly, some of Morricone's unused compositions later won an Academy Award when they were repurposed for The Hateful Eight. His work on The Thing is now appreciated for its disciplined subtlety and its ability to amplify atmosphere without drawing attention to itself. The minimalist approach became a major influence on later horror scoring. Window's character name was an inside joke about a real crew member. Fans often assume the character known as Windows earned his nickname because of his large tinted glasses, but there is a deeper behind-the-scenes detail. The nickname was inspired by a real technician who worked with Carpenter on earlier projects. That crew member wore oversized frames that constantly reflected studio lights, making it difficult for camera operators to capture clean shots. The joke followed Carpenter into The Thing, where he encouraged actor Thomas Waits to lean into the visual gag. The production team referred to Waits as Windows long before the script officially adopted the name. This small inside joke developed into one of the film's most memorable character identifiers. Waits embraced it fully, designing gestures and reactions that made the glasses part of his personality. The humor behind the name contrasted sharply with the grim setting, giving the character a sense of lived-in authenticity. The detail went unnoticed by most viewers, until cast interviews decades later clarified the origin. It is a reminder that even in a tense production filled with horror, the crew found ways to inject pieces of their own history into the storytelling. The UFO discovery scene was inspired by a 1930s pulp novel. Carpenter's vision for the film's opening spacecraft discovery was influenced by a little-known science fiction novel from the 1930s called Who Goes There by John W. Campbell, which was also the source material for the film. While adapting the novella, Carpenter studied various pulp-era illustrations depicting crashed alien vessels. One specific cover painting from a 1930s magazine showed explorers uncovering a circular craft beneath layers of ice. The composition, angle, and framing of that illustration inspired the aerial shot used in The Thing's expedition sequence. Carpenter wanted the scene to evoke a sense of ancient discovery rather than futuristic spectacle. His approach created a grounded atmosphere, as though the alien presence had slumbered beneath the ice for centuries. This slower and more atmospheric interpretation contrasts with the more dramatic portrayal in the 1951 adaptation. The homage is subtle enough that many viewers never recognize its roots in early pulp imagery. Nonetheless, the scene reflects Carpenter's appreciation for classic science fiction and his desire to honor the genre's history through quiet visual references rather than overt imitation. The opening title was created using a trash bag and a burned aquarium. The crisp and eerie title reveal at the start of The Thing looks like a polished optical effect, but its creation was surprisingly handmade. Visual effects artist Peter Caron crafted the sequence using a simple aquarium tank filled with smoke. A plastic garbage bag was stretched across a cutout stencil of the title and then ignited behind the tank. As the plastic melted, light passed through the stenciled letters and projected the glowing effect onto the camera lens. The smoke in the aquarium added texture, producing a natural atmospheric distortion. The technique drew inspiration from the title reveal in the 1951 film, but pushed the effect further by using layered lighting. Carpentry and improvisation were essential because digital tools were not available at the time. The entire sequence cost only a small fraction of a typical optical effect, but remains one of the film's most iconic images. Its practical execution showcases the ingenuity of early visual effects artists and highlights how memorable imagery can be created using simple materials and creative planning. The film accidentally debuted the same week as E.T., killing its box office. One of the major reasons The Thing performed poorly during its initial release was its unfortunate timing. Universal released the film in June 1982, just weeks after Steven Spielberg's E.T. captured global attention with its optimistic portrayal of extraterrestrial life. Audiences were drawn to friendly wonder rather than bleak paranoia. Market research at the time revealed that moviegoers viewed The Thing as cynical and excessively violent, compared to the uplifting tone dominating theaters. Critics also responded harshly, with some calling the film nihilistic. The contrast between the two alien narratives could not have been sharper. Carpenter later expressed frustration that the release window did not allow The Thing to stand on its own. Over time, however, the film developed a massive cult following that viewed its darker tone as a strength. The initial failure serves as a reminder of how box office results can hinge on cultural timing rather than artistic quality. The Thing endures because it refuses to give easy answers. Every frame carries uncertainty, every shadow hides possibility, and every quiet moment invites suspicion. What began as a misunderstood release has grown into one of the most studied films in horror history, not through marketing, but through the curiosity of viewers who sense there is more beneath the surface. Its lost footage, secret visual clues, hidden production struggles, and layered scientific inspirations reveal a film built with rare precision. The mysteries surrounding its ending, its creature logic, and its subtle hints ensure that no two viewings feel the same. As generations revisit the film, new details emerge, reminding us that fear does not always come from what is shown, but from what remains unknown. Carpenter's masterpiece survives because it mirrors the very creature at its core. It constantly reshapes itself, waiting for someone new to discover what others missed.